The item before us, I supported because of various reasons. And I want to be sure to give balance to the many people that have sent in their comments to my office about where they stand on of a ballpark for at that Howard terminal, both those in opposition and those in favor. So let me read a couple of things. First of all, in my district, I spoke to 3 of the 4 mayors in my district, Hayward, Union City, and Newark. And they were all in favor of moving forward with a non-binding resolution on this issue so that we can do the analysis and investigation needed before we decide whether or not the county wants to fully participate moving forward on a project of this scale. The Hayward City Council itself passed a resolution in favor of moving forward on this item. And I have a quote from one of the council members who voted in favor of that resolution. And the council member says, "As we continue to see further discussion, I'd like to support the need to require the developer to pay for community benefits before breaking ground, such as privately paying for on-site affordable housing and other community benefits that the community needs." Another correspondence from a labor union, the Teamsters, reads, "The Port of Oakland stands firmly behind the Howard Terminal plan. The port held several public hearings on the project with much public input and has voted multiple times in support. Oakland's port commissioners recognize that the Howard Terminal Ballpark project will help to ensure that the Port of Oakland continues to be thriving, competitive, job creator, and an economic engine for decades to come. We understand that there are many ongoing concerns about the Howard Terminal project, affordable housing, transportation, planning, and more. We are sensitive to your need to carefully vet these concerns as you weigh your participation. That is exactly why a non-binding yes vote is so important. It will provide the county with ample time to have staff and consultants analyze the project and develop a plan independent report, again, hopefully at no cost to the county. Such a report is essential to understanding the scope of the project, including the full range of commercial and economic benefits that will result from such an investment." In opposition, there seems to be one chain email that's being passed by several Alameda County residents. I don't know where they live because they don't identify where they live, but they do say that they're Alameda County residents. And I'll read a paragraph from the same chain, many of which were received at my office. "After being burned by Mount Davis and other sports debacles, the county made the wise decision to get out of the sports business altogether. A lawsuit has now been filed regarding the sale of the county's stake in the Coliseum, requiring the infusion of additional county funds and time. It is hard to fathom that the A's proposal for another taxpayer subsidy should also be drawing attention away from other more urgent issues affecting Alameda County's residents. The A's proposal for a huge commercial development at the Port of Oakland that includes luxury condos, high-rise office space, and happens to include a ballpark is a bad deal for Oakland, and asking the county to invest additional taxpayer dollars doesn't make any sense, make any sense, less so. Please protect Alameda County residents by saying no to bailing out this private development project and taxpayer dollars. We know that the City of Oakland City Council elected officials have voted to move forward with the project, and they are the people who represent the City of Oakland. The intent here, when I co-signed this letter, was to move the ball forward, if you will, toward exploring and analyzing clearly what the risks are, what the potential benefits are on both sides of the issue. We've yet to get a full vetting of that issue. We've heard from the City of Oakland at previous meetings, but we've never had in my opinion, a third-party voice that can look at this, analyze this, and come back to us with a full-scale reading of the potentials that this holds. My personal feeling is that the City of Oakland is a city that needs a great deal of investment, one way or the other, to improve the quality of life for the people of the City of Oakland. It is a city, in my opinion, that is suffering, and this potential holds some promise. I'm not sure what that promise is, but it sounds as if it holds economic development, jobs locally, and benefits that could not only benefit the City of Oakland and its residents, but the region. I think that is worth exploring. I think that merits some deeper dive into the facts and details. I would feel most comfortable if the Oaklanders themselves would pay for whatever analysis we need as a county to make sure that there is no impact to our general fund as we explore this potential. I hope that Mr. Cavall, whose name I see in the queue, can answer that question. I believe that they did the same thing for the City of Oakland. They covered their cost to do this exploratory research. I would feel very comfortable moving forward, again, to explore the possibilities. And I'm not going to say one way or the other whether I support the ballpark itself, but I do certainly support exploring further how we can proceed in a way that's more informative and a little bit less emotional. I have my own personal feelings about how we got burned by the Oakland Raiders and the Golden State Warriors. I'm willing to set those aside because I think, again, in my heart, that the potential here is great for a city that is aching for some economic development. I just want to wrap up, but I will come back later on, by saying my wife and I went to have dinner at Jack London Square last week, and we took a long walk up and down the Embarcadero there. Clearly that area needs economic revitalization. Clearly that area needs investment. I've had conversations with businesses up and down Howard Terminal that are doing quite well, I understand, at the Port of Oakland. And some of the merchants who spoke to me in opposition of this project, one of the first things that I asked them for was, what are you putting on the table? How are you investing to redevelop this area that has been very lucrative for you? And if you have any ideas or any business plans about the future of this area, please submit them to my office. Granted, that was a tough question for them to answer. I'm hoping that they'll come back, and who knows, they may have an economic development revitalization plan like they did for the Brooklyn project, which I think is a nice example of the private sector and the public sector coming together and creating housing. But yet, I have not seen anything about the Port of Oakland, specifically Jack London Square, about how it can be revitalized by making developers who have, again, or businesses who reside in that sector make investments themselves about an alternative plan for the revitalization and benefit of that corridor, which I think is in desperate straits at the moment. So those are some of my comments, but I'll reserve to come back and speak again. Thank you.
President Carson, thank you for the opportunity. I echo many of the comments made by Supervisor Valle. Indeed, I have also received many comments in favor of and also many in opposition to the proposal. I note that we also have seen letters Supervisor Valle mentioned from several of the cities in his district. The cities of Livermore and Dublin have also expressed support for moving forward. And it's in that interest that I asked this item to come to us, that we would move the item forward. I note that we first heard this in, I think, June of this year. Subsequently, the City of Oakland heard it in July. At the time in June, I believe we said we would want to take some time to evaluate things, bring it back in September. And here it is, the end of October. And so looking for an update, hopeful and optimistic that we can get to a situation where we understand all of the variables, willing to express interest and willingness to commit additional tax revenues if it makes sense for everybody. I note that when we received an answer from the mayor of Oakland around the uses of our funds, what would they be used for in the overall project development, and we were told for affordable housing, for additional open space, and for amenities that would be quite nice for our broader community. I also note that this is a project that will have a regional impact, not just benefiting the city of Oakland, but more broadly, hence cities far away from Oakland on the other side of the county indicating support for it. And so I'm hoping that today we will be able to discuss what we've learned since June, what we think the additional, what timing we would lay out for and process we would lay out for getting to finality around this question. I note there's a lot of angst around who would speak first, the city of Oakland or the county of Alameda. I note that many of the decisions to be made around whether Howard Terminal is a good site, land use, whether transportation to and from that site is acceptable, transportation, other things like affordable housing, these are almost always relegated to and in the purview of the city. And so I'd like to stay out of the city decisions to be made and rather focus entirely on what's being asked of us and whether how we can do it in a way that we can afford and that doesn't take away from the resources that we would otherwise have to provide. But I'm not inclined to weigh in on land use decisions of a city. That's really not our purview. But I do note that more broadly, and we talked about this in June, more broadly, this site generates jobs, and Oakland is a working town, and we've got to find ways, or at least express support for maintaining those jobs. But what I'd like to get out of today is where we've been since June, where we are today, and a path forward which allows this project to proceed, noting that we don't have the final approval of this project. That rests between the City of Oakland and the A's, that we would discuss doing what's been asked of us or not. Again, noting we don't have approval of this, but I believe if we say that we're not interested, then the deal goes away. So I'd like to discuss, that's why we brought this before us today. Thank you.